Vice had a pretty refreshing article on the issue of opioid pain pills, and they bucked the increasingly rigid orthodoxy that these pills are the worst thing ever and never helped anybody, and oh my god, our hair's on fire, and let's all bitch and moan and scream and yell about how there needs to be a crackdown on this. So here's what they say. Before she turned 18, Anne, a nurse, had endured at least 5 major surgeries, all without the use of post-op medication stronger than ibuprofen. As a child in Birmingham, Alabama, she had been diagnosed with cerebral palsy, but eventually learned that she actually has primary generalized dystonia, a genetic disorder that causes frequent painful muscle spasms and rigidity. By 19, she says she had tried pretty much every treatment available, including a spinal implant that made matters worse. Then she was given a prescription opioid. So, they explain in the piece here that it simply changed her life, and in fact, it saved her life. And she describes how she went from not being able to function at all to functioning normally. But what happened is the CDC now issued new guidelines to crack down on pain pills because they think, oh, the addiction problem is so bad that we must come up with these guidelines to crack down. And what happened is, even though these are voluntary guidelines, virtually all the doctors across the country are treating them like it's a law. And so they've gotten very, very careful with who they give out the pain pills to. And in fact, they oftentimes flat out underprescribe. They'll refuse pain pills to people who genuinely need the pain pills. So virtually no doctor is giving the pills long term. She says, I had to go to 60 doctors before one finally was like, okay, I'll write you a prescription for opioids for long term. Because what happens is the government starts looking into those doctors who prescribe it long term, even if it's totally legitimate and it's a pain patient who needs it. So they continue here. They explain, the crackdown isn't curing people with addiction, even if it does seem to be shifting them to heroin. The result, among other things, has been more death. Just this past week, in fact, the CDC released data showing yet another jump in the overdose death rate, even though prescribing has continually fallen since 2012. According to the study, the proportion of overdose deaths involving heroin has tripled since 2010. Tripled! While those involving prescription opioids have fallen. It's not really in dispute at this point that being cut from medical opioids can send people in search of riskier street drugs, sometimes cut with the super potent fentanyl and its derivatives. But in the regions hardest hit by opioid problems, opioid deaths are not the only kind of mortality on the rise. Death from suicide and alcoholism have risen. Okay, so let's break this down further. What they're saying is, they cut off the flow of the opioid pills. Now, most people, including most people on the left, by the way, would say, that's good, it's great, that's tremendous, I love that, that's wonderful. It's good that they did that. We're saving people's lives. Wrong, because there was a triple increase in heroin overdose, and now people are also, that's not the only way in which they're turning, because again, opioids, it's like basically a small dose of heroin in these pain pills. But when they can't get that, they go to the black market and they try to get heroin, and it's cut with fentanyl and other shit that's obviously way stronger, 100 times stronger than morphine, and then they die. But that's not it. It's also, they say, suicides are up massively, and alcoholism is up massively. So in other words, you cut off the flow of these pills, and then these people end up turning to worse things. You've created a bigger problem to crack down on pain pills. And what's happening is bigoted thinking, generalized thinking. I've had people contact me for the show, and they say, look, man, let me tell you my story. I'm a pain patient. I have this problem, I have that problem. The opiate pills or opioid pills are the only thing that stops my pain. Now nobody prescribes them. Now I'm going to go to the black market and get heroin. As they point out in this article, and as Dr. Carl Hart points out, who's an addiction expert, 80% of all drug users are moderate users. So whether they use it for medicinal reasons or they use it for recreational reasons, they can control themselves. They're adults. They can live a normal life. You can live a normal life and take these pills, especially if you're dealing with pain, and it's the only thing that gets you to live a normal life. She said, by the way, Anne said that at one point she said, you know what, I'm going to try to go without these pills because they were so hard to get. She's like, all right, maybe I'll find something else. I'll figure it out. She said, as soon as she stopped taking the pills, within a month, she was bedridden, couldn't move, in extreme pain all the time. The only thing that helped her were the pills. Now, look, some people would say, well, I'll use marijuana. With some people, marijuana is the answer and it relieves their pain. With other people like Anne, she says, no, opioid pills are the only thing that work for me. So when you have a situation where most pain pill users, the overwhelming majority of pain pill users, are not addicted, and they take it because they need it for pain, or even the people who take it for recreation, why this double standard and this gross thinking, especially from people who are liberals, who say, well, that drug is a good drug, marijuana, but opioid pills, no, we got to crack down on that and take it out of your hands. How dare you take that? What's with the double standard? What's with the fucking hypocrisy? What's with the, my drug is okay, but your drug is not okay? It's fucking disgusting, man. And even if you say, yeah, but you know what, Kyle? There are more pain pill overdoses. Nobody overdoses from marijuana. That's true. You know what else kills people a lot? Because they have too much of it? Alcohol. Is that a convincing argument to you that we should ban alcohol or crack down on alcohol or limit alcohol? No, right? You'd say, what, hashtag freedom, bitch? Yeah, people might die from alcohol poisoning, and a lot might die from alcohol poisoning, but that's a free society. You make those decisions. I feel bad for those people. I want to have treatment centers for those people, addiction centers, free clinics. I'm with you 100% on that. Have rehab centers all over the country. Agreed, totally. But you can't, you're in this anti-pain pill mania, this fervor, you're cracking down on people who need it to live a normal life. For some high-minded ideal of, well, we're doing the right thing by being more authoritarian. Yeah. You have no idea how many people you're hurting, and nobody tells the stories of people like Anne. This is why I give a lot of credit to Vice for doing this article, because nobody talks about people like Anne. Nobody talks about the majority of pain pill users who need it to survive.